Hekigan Roku, Case 17. Kyorin sitting long and getting tired. Engo's introduction. Cutting through nails and breaking steel. For the first time, one can be called master of the first principle. If you keep away from arrows and evade swords, you will be a failure in Zen. As for the subtle point where no probe can be inserted, that may be set aside for a while. But when the foaming waves wash the sky, what will you do with yourself then? See the following. Main subject. A monk asked Kyorin, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West? Kyorin said, sitting long and getting tired. Secho's verse. 1, 2, and tens of hundreds of thousands. Take off the muzzle and set down the load. If you turn left and right, following another's lead, I would strike you as Shiko struck Rutetsuma. Shinge Roshi and dear Sangha, I have to look at you all first. It's really lucky that we're all together, that we can be here like this for Sesshin, to have each other. I'm feeling especially lucky because I can be here in person for as many sits as I can do with my knee. And I feel so grateful for the Zoom opportunity that technology allowed here. It's really been wonderful for me to be able to attend during these times when I could not be here at all. So you're really still there, which is quite wonderful. So I'm going to start with a question. Everyone sitting here last night and sitting here today, how many can say they've been practicing with a spirit of dauntless, indomitable courage? Well, luckily there's still more time. These are Hakuin's words. They were preserved by Tori Enji. I'll repeat his words. Practice is carried on with a spirit of dauntless, indomitable courage. So most of you know that Sesshin means bringing together of the mind. For each of us, it's frequently pretty scattered, fragmented. And Shinge Roshi spoke of this in this way. Sesshin is not only gathering together the individual mind into its fundamental oneness, it's gathering collectively in the realization of this one mind. So we know to be here, we have to separate ourselves from our daily schedules, routines, home, leaving all our connections. It's just so important and so precious to be able to encounter this very place from which the mind comes forth. So on our first full day, it's important to remember that it's not just like, 2 or 3 more days, because, this day comes only once. It's really precious. I want to read a quote from The Path to Bodhidharma, which is probably my favorite book. It's the teachings of Shodo Harada Roshi. He speaks of Hakuin. Practice is carried on with a spirit of dauntless, indomitable courage. This is how he puts it. This is the fulcrum of practice. The central, most important quality of practice is that we do it bravely, without wavering, We cannot do it with a weak heart full of hesitation, nor can we do it while being concerned with what is to the left or to the right, or with what others are doing or thinking, with our physical problems, or with how we feel about things, or how insecure we might feel. If we pay attention to each and everything that comes along, there is no way we can possibly encounter that true source of mind, cut that root of life and death, or clarify essence of what it really is to exist. Our training is not a scholarly study. We are not sitting to absorb philosophical information. If we wanted to do that, we could go to college. We are not doing this for information, but to separate from that dualistically oriented mind. We have to completely throw all of that away, or we cannot encounter directly that true root of our life energy. And one other quote here. We cannot retreat here. We have to take it just one step further. To take it on to its final place requires the straightforward bravery about which Hakuin always teaches us. He is teaching this from his own experience. To break through this place, only straightforward bravery will work. Anybody can do the kind of zazen that looks peaceful and comfortable. There are lots of people all over the world who love to do zazen, but 99% of them are not doing real zazen. They are sitting to become happier and to feel good. This is no real zazen. Doing zazen begins where you become unable to know where to go and what to expect. Then, for the first time, you can take that straightforward bravery and pierce through. This experience is the only way to get that ticket to pass through the gate. So in my early years of practice, I came to realize more and more how crucial Sesshin is to this whole thing. To plumbing the depths, you need to do Sesshin to get rid of the small self. And we need to go beyond our perceived limits, which we know Sesshin does for us. You can already feel it, I'm sure, early hours, lots of sitting, full schedule, posture, holding your posture. When I think of Choka, our morning service, I always think about Ernest Hemingway's line, "Why do old men wake so early? Is it to have one longer day?" We all need one longer day. Sitting long and getting tired. My sister, Leslie, had her first session, and when she came out, she said, "I found out, no matter how tough it was, we didn't die." So the odds are, we will come out the other end of this. Although she did attend a session out west that was a little looser, and they got to go walk in the woods, and somebody did die. They fell off a cliff. But since we don't indulge in such things, we don't have to worry about that one. I think about Rohatsu Sesshin and the exhortations, and Master Hakuin on his 6th night, who says, he points to this discomfort. He says, bitterness is the characteristic of tea. It nurtures the heart. So it has been said that the best way to nurture the heart is to endure this bitterness, and we won't die. When a student delightedly undertakes hardships, then the hardships penetrate, and spirit can become lucid and lofty and cheerful, actually cheerful. I appreciate this quote by the late Albert Lowe. "Have faith in your suffering. It is leading you. It is guiding you. It is working for you. Without it, nothing can be accomplished. The sense of self has been built out of cast iron, layered onto reinforced concrete, and lined with impenetrable steel. Do you think you are going to cut through it in a weekend? Of course, it's going to take time, energy, pain, and hard work. And I would add many session weekends. I saw this on Facebook. So when you think about your difficulties and discomfort, this too shall pass. It may pass like a kidney stone, but it will pass. So strenuous practice is so precious. It's a precious thing. And we can stop and think about how many times we actually feel delighted to do this. When we give up other things to come here, they're all considerations of the small self. So ever since my first session and a meeting I was in where Zen Center was deciding how much to charge for a session, all I could think about was this TV commercial from 1997. It was MasterCard's campaign called Priceless. You probably remember it. So I just changed some words here if the ad was for session. Planning advance time off from work, the price, time investment. Having a job, work plan prior to leaving and for returning, the price, time investment. Getting home things and people set up for our absence, the price, time investment. Planning, packing, the price, time investment. Session prep, as in preparing for an officer position or helping beforehand, the price, time investment. Transportation to Syracuse, traveling expenses, the price, some amount of money. Session fee, another amount of money, or a work offering. And then the concluding line of the ad, session mind, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. So after my first session, I just remember thinking, what is all this talk about, this thinking, deciding to go? Can I balance the other things? And then you realize it's priceless. So how can you even think about those other things, like remember for next time when session registration comes up? So when I came out of my first session, I left the driveway and tears just poured down my face on the entire ride home. And it was just unbounded gratitude. Like I didn't even have a word for it, but that's what it was. Just streams going through the lights, and not the red lights, just crying. And so I knew I wanted to express this gratitude when I got home. So I decided, because it was supper time, I would surprise them with a dinner. So I went straight to Wegmans. That was crazy, because it's the first time out of session. If it's your first, there's some decompression. But this was like, I went in there, I felt like it was a carnival. The lights were brighter than, you needed sunglasses, the noise, and it was crazy. I felt like I was in a pinball machine. And I did it though. And of course, now we recommend that when you come out of session, you ease in. I don't think anyone new here. Nathan, don't go to Wegmans when you leave here. Because there is, more and more years, as you go on, there'll be less decompression. But especially the first time, that was crazy. I can still see it. Pinball noise. So I did. I bought groceries, went home and made dinner. And we sat in our dining room, and I addressed each person in my family to tell them what I was so grateful for. And I just had to do it. So I would say, having attended some decades now of sessions, I could give you a few tips. Some of you may know these already. One is keeping a Dokusan journal. It's really valuable that you make note of what you said to Roshi, what Roshi said to you, back and forth, and then you have this record of that journey. And it's very valuable to look back on, too, how you arrived at where you arrived. I also kept a separate journal, just a session journal, to make notes of memories of the day, special things during session. And I found that session mind is a natural for memorizing. It's so easy. So I recommend that to experiment with some chant that you're trying to learn. It's very easy to memorize with session mind. And then there's one more. I just read this 2 days ago. I just loved how simply it was put. There is a difference between thoughts and thinking. It can be like an obvious thing, but just seeing it stated that way, different between thoughts and thinking. So I'm going to go to our case. Kyorin was 908 to 987. He was one of the outstanding students of Umon. He followed him for 18 years as his attendant. You may know the story where each day Umon would call him, and he answered, "Yes, sir." And Umon would say, "What is this?" And this continued for 18 years. And then one day Kyorin exclaimed, "Oh, I understand." So Umon said, "Why don't you say it in a transcending manner?" Which I've heard in Dokusan many times. So Kyorin spent another 3 years with Umon to attain full maturity. It is written that he was a great master but considered slow to mature. But we all know that there's no timeline for this, readiness of time. So he went on to teach his disciples for 40 years. And when he was dying, this is what he said: "For 40 years, I was constantly in one piece." By this he meant that he had maintained his samadhi for that whole period of time, both absolute and positive samadhi, unbroken through that time. You may know one of his disciples is Chimon, who is Secho's teacher. So Engo's introduction today speaks to many questions which I thought we can easily apply to our session sitting. So I'm going to go through each quote and then throw out a question. First quote was, "Cutting through nails and breaking steel." So what are our attachments and the difficulties that we encounter? That's something to sit with. And our teacher task is to help us identify these, so we can try to break through them. Second quote, "The first principle." So what is the ultimate truth to be mastered by Zen practice? Third quote is, "If you keep away from arrows and evade swords." So our practice is a Zen battle, and we need determination to overcome our personal hardships instead of evading them. Everyone likes to evade. Fourth quote, "The subtle point where no probe can be inserted." So once in absolute samadhi, nothing can penetrate us. So can we persist in sitting and letting go of that as a goal, not thinking I'm trying to get samadhi, but the persistence in sitting to have an experience. Fifth quote, "When the foaming waves wash the sky." So what affairs of the world demand the busiest activity of your consciousness? Can we sit there and notice what comes up? Ada Roshi spoke of this in his book Golden Wind Zen Talks regarding hours and days spent in session. Quote, "Many superficial thoughts have by now gone. We know that when the clouds open up for 1 minute, we have 1 minute of sunshine." I was going to say sounds like Syracuse, but the rain started as soon as we stepped out the door today. 2 minutes of cloudless sky gives us 2 minutes of sunshine. In the same way, even 1 minute of zazen makes a 1-minute Buddha, 1 minute of the light of wisdom. Hakuin Zenji's Song of Zazen begins to sound more and more true. Even those who have practiced it for just one sitting will see all their evil karma erased. So I love this 1-minute Buddha. It's wonderful to remember that Sesshin is just one step at a time, one sit at a time, one officer duty at a time. Because I know if you sit and think ahead, that's when mistakes come up. It's just one at a time. No need to look ahead or project. Do nothing but be here for this one moment. I can share my experience with Diamond Sutra the first time I ever chanted it. First session, I just kept turning the page and saying, it's so long, long, and how long? And that was my mind. And then a few sessions later, it just came to be one syllable, one syllable. One syllable. I'm like, I could do that all day. One syllable. Not this, how many pages is it going to be? Just boom, boom. And then the next session, it deepened to the point of, it wasn't this punctuated syllable, it was a thread. And this is just an example of how this practice never stops deepening and just comes to you from doing it. So the quote, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West? So he had great determination. He endured like 3 years of hardship on his voyage to China. And can we have this kind of determination? It's a profound and serious intention. Quote, sitting long and getting tired. So when sitting, we're just sitting. When we're tired, we're just getting tired. So can we have no irritation about it and no regret about it and not spend precious doksan time complaining? That is such a priceless time. And Moshe has many students, so to use it well and get to the point is really important. It really honors the teacher. So it's priceless time, and the other question I think of with this is, can we be as we are in one piece, as the koan said, in one piece? So all of these considerations continue years as we practice, and we have to keep questioning. We never stop questioning. To look deeply within, we have to continue to question, and no teacher can give us an answer that counts for anything. It has to be our own. We know that teachers point the way. Turning left and right, following another's lead from the koan is of no use. It must be our own experience. So we're back to sitting long, getting tired. So the other piece I'd like to read is from The Garden of Flowers and Weeds. It's a big one. A new translation and commentary on the Blue Cliff Record by Matthew Juksan Sullivan. It's kind of informal, but it made me smile. Why did the patriarch come from the West? This inquiry is so common in Zen literature that it is almost a cliche, yet it remains potent because it calls into question the entire point of Zen. Why did Bodhidharma bother when it's all drudgery and boredom? It's not so different from asking, why do you get up every morning? Why do you go to work? Why do you meditate? Zen, more than any other human art or endeavor, teaches us how beautiful and necessary boredom is. It is not a downside or a drawback. It is the central feature of our tradition. When Kyorin says sitting for a long time becomes tiresome, he is uncovering a high and holy truth. Only boredom can set you free. In my commentary on the last case, I mentioned that I spent a year at an isolated retreat center. Although I found solitude joyous during the first few months, as the seasons changed, I sunk into a wide, flat boredom. I kept up a discontented meditation practice, but it was punctuated with jags of impatience that I had to walk off on the long path around the mountain. Every day became the same. I marked the calendar like a prisoner. When it eventually came time for me to leave, I could barely contain my sense of relief. However, as the truck rumbled down the mountain, I felt ashamed that my enthusiasm had run out before I attained some form of insight. It was only years later that I realized the loss of enthusiasm was itself the insight. I had become bored with the retreat because I had finally stopped being able to entertain myself. Being alone day in and day out taught me that although my thoughts seem compelling and important, in reality they are poorly recycled trash. The same thoughts pop up again and again, the same cravings for food or affection, the same grudges, scorekeeping, the same unfulfilled desires or reheated passions. The particulars change every few days or weeks, but the thoughts were always the same. Our thoughts continually seduce us. Emotions fascinate us like a bird in a window will fascinate a cat. But it was only in the unadorned light of boredom that I saw my thoughts were not so worthy of attention. How can you take anything seriously when it is so tedious? If you meditate enough, someday you will become so bored with your own thoughts that you can walk away from them, like a child leaving behind the drone of a television in order to play outside. This is why Bodhidharma came from the West. He is the droning television. He wants to bore you. It is part of his plan. So his words, meditating enough. When we think of the words we recite in morning service, Bodhisattva's vow, my favorite line. I love this line, and it makes me smile every time we say it. The then in each moment's flash of our thought, there will grow a lotus flower, and each lotus flower will reveal a Buddha. I always see a big garden, and I see all the Buddhas pop up. I just love that line. So if we think about it, if we sit with our thoughts on the past or the future, or how many hours we've been up already, which I did in my first session, I was constantly doing math. Well, I got up at 4 at home, and I kept adding up all the hours. So if we do that, we're not present to see these Buddhas rise up. We miss it. So the priceless thing of being right here in the moment is priceless. So we sit here together day after day, and it's not always blissful, as we said, and it's demanding discipline, and how can doing nothing be so demanding? Shinge Roshi described it in this way. The metaphor is that of tempering a sword so that it becomes a really fine instrument. Then all manner of delusions can be cut through the moment they demand our attention. Plunging the sword into the fire and then into cold water again and again. This discipline is not something that many people want to undergo, but it is necessary. Sounds to me like surgery, but with no anesthesia. So there's some good news in neurobiology. To quote His Holiness, they have uncovered remarkable potential for changeability in the human brain, even as old as I am. This phenomenon, brain plasticity, suggests to me that traits that were assumed to be fixed, such as personality, disposition, even moods, are not permanent, and that mental exercises or changes in the environment can affect these traits. Already, time has shown that experienced meditators have more activity in the left frontal lobe, the part of the brain associated with positive emotions, happiness, joy, contentment. So this all, reaffirms the ancient Buddhist teachings of the mind's capacity for transformation. We can go from frustrated negativity to some peaceful equanimity. Equanimity is my favorite word. The first time I ever heard it, I had to look it up. It was just something about it. I have to know what this word means. Equanimity is wonderful. So then we're no longer victims of our past conditioning. We can truly sit and let go of outcomes. This letting go of outcomes has been invaluable to me over years in all sorts of situations. Once you realize everything changes, there's so much freedom in that. And most recently, over the last 4 years, I've needed several procedures, 4 surgeries, and this, in spite of the fact that Jiraku kept writing to me and saying, quit it, enough, I don't want to hear about another one. But having these many things that may have unanswered questions, what will the results be like? This has been so invaluable to me to not look ahead and look at outcomes. Just do the work every day and let go of any kind of a worry of how it may turn out. So Senju had sent me an email to see how I was doing on one of my surgeries, and I had written this message, and he said it should be on a billboard. So I'm going to read that. It's just in my email. I have remained in very good mental spirits, I'm sure due to practice, where one feels an equanimity with all goings on and a non-attachment to outcomes. Just doing what it takes each day, appointments, PT, mindful movements, not worrying about what's ahead, not wondering if this knee will have a better result than the last one, which is not good. Flowing with each thing as it rolls out. So this is a great personal lesson I can pass to you, the very real effect of our Zen practice. Less suffering, even amidst difficult challenges. So I'll have to find the billboard. So it's such an understatement for me to say how precious this has been for my life and how much happiness it has allowed. Knowing things change, letting go of outcomes. When we give ourselves over to Sesshin, we can actually come to find it's actually easy. Nowhere to go, nothing to get, nothing to do, just be here. And then we're here for each moment's flash of our thought. So I would like our session intention be to sit with these questions that this koan brought up and to continue this questioning and commit. And as we commit to our persistent practice, keep questioning, keep looking deeply within, let go of outcomes, don't judge it. It's like Nike, just do it. Just do it. So may we all be able to say at the end of our lives, I have sat long and gotten tired and am all in one piece.